Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to continue on with the Polish Beer Month, but we do have something just a little bit different. We're actually going to have a look at one of the Polish regional breweries today rather than one of the craft breweries. So we're going to go to the Opole in the southwestern part of Poland, and we're having a taste of a beer from the town of Namyslow. This one comes from Browar Namysłów and it's called Białe Pszeniczne, which literally means white wheat, if I'm not mistaken. So this one is listed as a wheat beer rather than a Weizen beer on Rate Beer, and it was rated about 60 or 70, so it should be fairly nice. And this beer was very kindly given to me by my friend Dominika, who's actually from Gdansk. I thought this beer was going to be from that region, but it's actually from the southwest of Poland, but she tells me it's one of her favourite beers, so I hope that she enjoys the review for this one, and a big thank you to her for bringing this beer back for me from Poland. Much appreciated. So anyway, as always with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Browar Namysłów, hopefully in the near future. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, and there's all the usual social media, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd. Please follow me on there. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. And as always, to those of you in Poland, I apologise for any bad Polish pronunciations. Your language is very difficult to pronounce, but do please get in touch and let me know some of the other Polish beers and breweries that you guys would like me to have a look at. I hope you're enjoying this Polish Beer Month that I'm doing for you. Very cool, of course, to discover beers from different countries. But anyway, let's tell you about Browar Namysłów. So Browar Namysłów are a regional brewery from the town of Namyslow in the Opole in southwestern Poland. The town actually lies on the Widawa River and it has a population of 17,000. And today the town is actually quite well known for its food and drink industry. Nestle have a big ice cream factory there apparently, but this brewery resides in an old neo-Gothic castle. It looks very, very nice from the pictures I've seen, but this castle has quite an illustrious history. It was related to the German Teutonic Knights, of course. But the history of brewing in Namyslow goes back to the 14th century actually. The first mention of brewing in the town dates from the year 1321, and the first brewery in Namyslow Castle was actually founded in 1536. But this brewery was taken over by German brewer August Hasselbach in the year 1862, and this part of Poland of course used to be German. The town was called Namyslow back then, and the company then operated under the name Bierbrauerei A. Hasselbach. But in 1944, one of his descendants, Albrecht Hasselbach, evacuated the brewery to Feldkirchen near Munich, and the remaining brewery, the part of it that was left in Poland, was nationalised in 1945, as was the case with many industries in the Eastern European countries when the communist regimes took power. But during the communist times, this brewery was operating as Namysłowskie Zakłady Piwowarsko-Słodownicze. So again, apologies about the pronunciation, but the brewery once again became independent in 1991 when it became Browar Namysłów officially, and it was owned for a period by the Gostomczyk family, and then the brewery was bought over by the Chicago Poland Investment Group in March of 1999, and today the brewery employs over 200 people and it produces 1 million hectolitres of beer per year, and they actually export to, I'm sure it was America, Canada, Japan and also down to Australia apparently too. So if you do find yourself in those countries, let me know where you're actually drinking this beer as well. If you're watching the video, it'd be really cool to see how far and wide some of these Polish beers are getting. I've never seen this one before in Scotland, of course, and I only saw it when Dominika gave me it, so it would be interesting to know just how far and wide these beers are actually reaching. But they do have a few beers under the Browar Namysłów name. They have the Pils, the Bright Pils, the White Wheat, which is this guy here, and the Unpasteurized. Those are the English translations of the names, of course. The real names are in Polish. But they also produce the Złoty Denar beers, Zamkowe, and the Kozaki beers. So there's the Cossack beers, the Castle beers, and also the Gold beers, I think they translate to in English. There's quite a few different products from this brewery, so if you do see those, just recognise that they are from Browar Namysłów. And if you do want to find out more about the brewery itself, do go and check out the link to the brewery in the video description below. It is in Polish, but if you're using Google Chrome, of course, you can see the English translated version, but Google Translate isn't so good for Polish because the language is very, very complex. But anyway, let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer. Now, I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. There seemed to be a little bit of debate online about this one, of whether it was 5 or 6%. I think on Rate Beer it was listed as being 6%, but on the bottle here it says it's 5%, but you can see there, this is the nice Namysłów Castle that I was talking about. it belongs to the German Teutonic Knights, and I think the brewery still operate partly out of there, and it is owned by the brewery company as far as I can tell. But you can see it's almost a kind of German style label that's on this one. As I mentioned, like the history of Poland and Germany is a little bit intertwined. Poland, of course, has had a very turbulent history, but the northern part of Poland and that kind of southwestern part used to be German, of course. The part that has always been historically Polish is the southeast part of what is now Poland, and apparently the northwestern part of Ukraine, Lviv, has been historically Polish as well. So Poland is one of these countries where the Polish people rightfully have their own state, but the land, some of the land that they have, has belonged to various different countries. It's a country that's kind of moved westwards a little bit since its original inception. It's a very interesting history, and the Polish people are very nice, but they've kind of had, history hasn't treated them so well, I guess it's fair to say that. But let's actually get this beer open and get on with the tasting now. This one is a 5% wit beer, and it comes from Namyslow in Poland. Thank you once again to Dominika for providing me with this beer. I hope you enjoy the review. So yeah, as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one. And this is actually the first wheat beer that I'm having from Poland as far as I can remember. But yeah, looks really nice. It definitely does look more like a Belgian wheat beer than a German Weizen. It's a lot lighter in colour, of course. But as you can see, this beer is poured a really quite light pale golden straw. There's a solid finger of a frothy white head on this one. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and quite a few little ones just rushing up towards the bottom of the head there. There is a degree of opacity to this beer. You can see that the beer itself is quite opaque when I put my fingers behind it. There's a lot of visible carbonation in it, but it looks very nice, as you say. There's a little bit of sediment actually, you can see it in the bottom of the bottle there. I'll pour the rest of the beer in just a little bit later once we've had a look at the aroma. But yeah, this one actually smells quite sharp, to be honest. There's a lot of kind of soapy, citrusy characters. It actually reminds me a little bit of, it's more of like a kind of slightly ghosty or farmhouse aroma that you get off this one. So as you would expect with a wit beer, you get a kind of bready, yeasty character from this one, a big white bready note out of this beer. It really does actually remind me of a ghost, this one. It almost smells a little bit salty. So that's an interesting aroma, especially when it's listed as a wheat beer. But yeah, take a little bit of time and just take in this aroma for yourself. But there's a white bready malt base to this one. Good bit of wheaty character as you would expect. You can also pick up some kind of coriander or slightly peppery spice. Just a little bit of that banana yeasty character as well. But there's a good bit of citrus in there and some grassy, slightly floral hops. Mainly grassy and quite citrusy, and there's almost a little bit of a salty aroma to this one. Almost like a ghost beer or something like that. So do pay attention to this one and see what you can get out of it yourself. But the aroma isn't too complex in this one. But yeah, it's really interesting looking beer, and it smells quite unusual as well for a wit beer. So do pay a bit of attention to that before you actually try it. But let's get stuck into this one. So this is the Białe Pszeniczne from Browar Namysłów in Namyslow, Opole in southwestern Poland. Na zdrowie, skål as we would say in Sweden, Slange in Scotland. Thank you to Dominika for this beer. Well, yeah. First thing you're going to notice about this beer, it is light and it is quite sessionable. You know, it's one of these kind of subtly flavoured wit beers. It's really, this is a nice session beer actually. You know, a lot of people who drink craft beers would slate something like this in a review. They would say, no, it's nowhere near strong enough in flavour. But the whole point of this, I guess, is that it's a nice sessionable beer. These bigger breweries want to make beers that people can just session, that are nice drinkable beers, and you know, this one is that. Just on my first impression of it, that's the first kind of characteristic you're going to pick up on this one. And of course in Poland you can get some of these big American style craft beers, but if you want to go back to the kind of traditional styles of brewing, these regional breweries, these kind of middle-sized regional breweries, are the ideal places to do that. This is a really nice and quite enjoyable wit beer. I can see why Dominika likes this so much. I've drank quite a few beers with Dominika, and I know I kind of know roughly what sort of drinks that she likes, and this one, I can see exactly why she enjoys it. So let's put the last little bit of this in and see how we get on. But yeah, no, I can see why Dominika likes this one. For me, with all my experience of beer, this is actually a nice, very sessionable beer actually. I've always found with wheat beers, especially with some of the German Weizens, I do enjoy them, but you can never drink more than one of them because they are just very heavy. This, on the other hand, is a bit lighter than that, and it is more sessionable and really quite enjoyable. The flavours are all there, but it's just got that lighter mouthfeel and that lighter body that means you can drink a few of them, and I have to admit, I do appreciate that style. It is nice. So as I always say, before you dissect the flavour too much, just sugar the beer around in your mouth a little bit and let your whole palate adjust to it. But as you would expect, there is a nice kind of big bready and yeasty character to this one. As I mentioned before, it does actually have a little bit of a kind of almost slightly ghost character to it, this one. That Belgian ghost style beer, you can detect a little bit of that. There is almost just a little bit of a salty character to this beer. Yeah, I'd definitely stick with that. That character, it isn't just, you know, the beer coming into my tongue quite quickly. You know, there's definitely some kind of ghosty element to this beer, which is quite interesting. So the ghost style of beer isn't one I've had too often, so this makes it a little bit quirky. So do try this beer for yourself and see what you think. But the middle of your palate is just blanketed with a nice white bready malt there. Just goes right across the middle of the tongue. As you would expect, there's wheaty character in there. There is a good bit of yeastiness to it as well, and you can pick up some of the coriander and pepper spice there, but that's very, very subtle. The beer is really a kind of big, doughy, quite wheaty bready, as you would expect. There's maybe just a tiny little bit of caramel or maybe slightly biscuity character in this beer too. But as I mentioned, there isn't that kind of salty, almost gozy feel to the mouth base, the mouth feel in this one. It's really quite an unusual and quite quirky thing. So do let me know your own thoughts on what I say about the ghost character in this beer. But it's nice, you know, I can see why Dominika likes this beer. Nice, sessionable, wet beer this. So the hoppy side of the beer, around the edges of the palate, you've got quite a smooth, grassy hop character. There is maybe a little bit of floralness around the front parts of the tongue. It becomes a bit more floral and slightly aromatic. You can pick up that dryness around the front curve of the palate, but overall it is quite smooth, and that's exactly what you would want. Is, you know, it's a nice sessionable beer. There is a little bit of citrusy character. If you just go behind the front of the tongue there, you can pick out just a little bit of a lemony citrus there. And you know, I keep saying it, but this beer just really reminds me of some of these ghost beers that I had. I had a ghost beer from Mohawk Brewing Company, one of the gypsy breweries here in Sweden, and this beer reminds me so much of that one actually. So you know, that's maybe a good comparison. If you're watching in Sweden and you can also get hold of this beer, or vice versa, if you're watching in Poland and you can also get hold of the Mohawk beer, do try them and make the comparison. I really think this beer has some ghosty character to it. So I guess if you enjoy that style, you will enjoy this one. But overall, the flavours in this one for me, they're quite subtle, they're quite nice, they do blend together quite well. But as I said, those of you who are really hardcore into craft beer, this one is a lot lighter in its flavours than some of the other things you can get from Poland. That said, it is really quite enjoyable, I would say. I have to admit, I do like this beer and I can appreciate it. I would drink it again, you know, if it was on tap in a bar, wouldn't hesitate to get one of these. It is quite enjoyable in that regard. But in terms of the mouthfeel, this one's quite light-bodied, maybe pushing the mid-bodied character slightly. The carbonation is quite smooth, it's a little bit oily, there's a big bready mouthfeel to it. It's not really that sweet, it is more of a big bready character you're going to get to this one. It does lean towards the malty side of things, but there's a bit of hoppy, bitter character in there too. Just a little bit of a floral and grassy character, but overall it is really quite smooth. But there's some nice there's a slightly salty character to this one as well, which, as I say, reminds me of some of the ghost style beers. So I would recommend this beer to people who like ghost beers. You know, if you like beers that are quite subtle in their flavours but quite sessionable and do still have a good bit of flavour to them, then I think this is a beer that you will actually enjoy. I'd really be interested to try their Pils beer and their unpasteurised one, so maybe I can get those in the future at some point and review them for you. But overall, it's been quite a nice... this beer is quite an easy-going one, so if that's what you're after and you enjoy ghost-style beers, you will enjoy the Białe Pszeniczne from Browar Namysłów in Opole in Poland. So yeah, do go and check it out for yourself, and as always, let me know your own thoughts in the comment section below. So I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As I say, do get in touch with all the things I've asked, and please, until the next time, like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and check out my social media things, and I hope you're enjoying this Polish beer month that I'm doing for you. I've got a few other kind of regional beers to review for you soon, and then there are a lot of other craft beers to come too. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the Polish beer month. Thank you once again to Dominika for this beer. Go and check out Browar Namysłów from Opole in Poland. Cheers, na zdrowie.